Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's an NFL insider, the host of Broncos Country Tonight in KOA 850 in Denver. Please welcome Benjamin Allbright to the program. Benjamin, great to have you on. How are you?
Doing pretty well. How are you? Sorry for going to be driving while I do this, so let me buckle up here and not break the law. But yeah, gonna be a road adventure for the show.
I'm all fine with that. I really appreciate you making the time. I know you're a very busy guy, especially with all this news going on in Denver. What was your reaction to the Russell Wilson trade to start?
Excitement. We knew that was a possibility. We didn't know it was a probability this quickly. We knew 2 weeks ago that Aaron Rodgers was going back to Green Bay, but we didn't know for a fact whether or not they're going to be able to pull off the Russ Wilson deal. So it was super cool that they were able to pull that off. And the Broncos have a quarterback now that I think gives them playoff credibility, which they haven't had since Peyton Manning left.
What's he do to their Super Bowl chances for next year?
I think they're a contender. I wouldn't post them as a favorite, but I think they're a contender. I think they're definitely a playoff contender, and any team that's a playoff contender has got to be in that talk.
How built is their roster for Russell Wilson offensively?
Oh, it's pretty good. The Broncos roster, top to bottom, is ready to compete. Just needed a quarterback. I mean, you look last year; they had the number 3 defense in the NFL. On the offensive side of the football, you got Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Alberto Wabenab, Javonte Williams, Mike Boone, and an offensive line that might be the best offensive line Russ has ever been behind. They do need to figure out the right tackle position, and there's going to be some competition at center right guard, but still that line is not bad, and it's built to run outside zone, which is what they're going to switch to. So I think it's pretty built for us.
What do you think about the trade itself? Did they give up too much, or what do you think about what Denver gave back to Seattle?
I was surprised they didn't have to give up more. You look at this and you would have expected a Draymond Jones or a Bradley Chubb to be involved there, a Jerry Jeudy to be involved there. I thought there was probably going to be another draft pick involved. I thought the trade was very fair. I think Seattle got the short end of it just a little bit, but I think overall it was a very fair trade. And I'm not in terms of giving up too much. I don't even understand that concept. Do you think the Rams think they gave up too much for Matt Stafford?
No chance. Not if they're winning the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Benjamin Allbright here on Sports Talk Chicago. Benjamin, how shocking was the Khalil Mack trade for the Bears?
Oh, not at all. Chicago's cleaning house. We all knew that was coming. In fact, they're cutting guys, cleaning house. Anything is for sale there in Chicago as they totally rebuild that thing from the ground up. They're going to have over $100 million of cap space available next year to be able to come back and buy the pieces that they need. But they plan on a complete rip and strip there in Chicago. They feel like this is their year to do that, and it's not a surprise to people who've been paying attention.
Who else do you think's on the market right now for Chicago?
I think just about anybody can be had. Outside of maybe Fields, I think just about everybody can be had there in Chicago. I don't think there's anything that's off limits per se for the right price. Now, some of those prices might be a little higher than others. I'm not 100% sure that Fields wouldn't be available for the right price. I don't think they're married to him at all. You look at over the tape last year, there were some glaring deficiencies. Now, that's not to say he can't take a jump. That's not to say that Matt Nagy wasn't holding back, but there were some pretty glaring deficiencies. He did look like a slow processor at times, did have the great deep ball, but and that Pittsburgh game was fun to watch if you're a Fields fan. But beyond that, I mean, it just really wasn't a great year of tape for him. And they've really got to get that offensive line built for whoever is going to be the quarterback there in Chicago, whether that's Field long-term or whether that's someone else.
Have you heard anything specifically about Fields being dealt?
No, not specifically. I'm just saying that I think that if the right deal came along, it didn't have to be a huge deal, but if the right deal came along, they would accept just about any deal right now.
Is Ryan Poles doing the right thing?
He thinks he is, and it's his job on the line, not mine. I got to be honest with you. If it were me up there in Chicago, I probably would do the same thing. I probably would sand the thing all the way down and start over. The window with that defense after Vic Fangio left and the offense and all that kind of stuff, that window's over. That window's passed. So why not? Don't keep trying to patch it and just play into mediocrity. Go and build this thing from the ground up the way you want it, the way your coach wants it, and have the right vision for what you want and go from there. Rather than because otherwise you're playing patchwork and that kind of stuff just doesn't work. You wind up in purgatory, in that mediocrity where you're barely making the playoffs or barely missing them, and build this thing the way the coach had envisioned.
Where do you think they're going? Like, what needs are they going to address either this year or next year with that big cap space?
Well, I mean, obviously, you're going to have to get the pass rush going. The front four is going to look a little different. You're not going to be a 34 defense anymore. You're probably be a 43. You're probably going to tackle the front four. Eberflus is heavy with the Tampa 2 variant, so your defense probably going to look something like that. Athletic linebackers that can drop back into hook zones. You're probably looking for rangy, too high safeties, and then strong tackling corners that can play the low zone and ride the rails on the outside. On the offensive side of the ball, build the wall, man. Build the wall. Build a wall to protect that quarterback. So that's what you'd be looking for there on the offensive side of the ball. I think, you're going to look for one burner, one possession guy and then figure out the running back situation. You're going to build this thing up around, unless they get a huge offer for Fields, you can build this thing around him, and see what he can do. And if he can do it, he's your guy. And if he can't, you'll be on to looking for the next one.
If they rebuild this offensive line and it does way better than last year, do you expect a big jump for Fields?
Well, I mean, he needs that. At the risk of being that guy, he is a slower processor. He does see the field more slowly. It was that way at Ohio State too, but he had a massive line in front of him that was just, full of 5-star athletes able to protect him for those deep option routes at Ohio State, and then he could throw it up. So to maximize his effectiveness, that's what you need to do. I don't know if that's enough to make him a great NFL quarterback or not, but if it's me, I'm all in to find out, because we've already got them on the roster on the rookie deal.
Do you think Luke Gensey could do something different with him?
Well, I mean, they're going to bring in concepts that, they worked for Aaron Rodgers. Now, keep in mind, Getsy also has experience at the college game. You go back and look at his Mississippi State and the offense that they ran down there. He was a little more willing to let his quarterback run and put him in situations to make his quarterback run, which I think plays to Fields' strengths. Fields kind of, even though he has that athleticism, kind of has a hesitancy to kind of use it sometimes. So I'm hoping that Getsy can kind of drill that into him. Hey, you've got this tool in your toolkit. Let's use it.
What still really concerns you about Fields?
Well, the slow processing, the inaccurate passes, not getting off that first read quick enough, those kinds of things. He has a tendency to try to hold and eat the ball. He took an insane amount of sacks. He led the NFL in sack percentage, led the NFL in fumbles, led the NFL in interception percentage. Got to cut down on the turnovers and got to quit taking sacks. You got to learn that discretion is a better part of valor. Just throw the football away, throw it out of bounds. Taking 0 and a loss of down is better than taking -9 and a loss of down.
And do you think that's something that he could grow into? I mean, have you seen other quarterbacks before with those similar numbers grow out of it, or is that something that's on the table?
Well, Josh Allen didn't take that many sacks, but he was kind of that rough, raw guy his first season, inaccurate passing, slower to read the field, didn't have great weapons around him, great line. So there's a parallel out there. It's more the outlier than it is the rule, but there are certainly examples out there. So
Benjamin Allbright still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Benjamin, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, what was your reaction when you found out about those hirings?
Well, with Poles, we kind of knew that was coming, and once he was coming, we kind of knew it was going to be Eberflus. So that sort of made sense. The question really surrounded which general manager candidate was going to get the job. So with Poles, he spent time at Kansas City bringing that over. The Getsy hire is certainly interesting. I like Matt Eberflus a lot. I think he's a good coach. I don't know as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, I think he's very good. They play a bend don't break style of defense with that Tampa 2. And the Achilles heel of that defense is that if you need a quick turnover, that's not the defense that gets you a quick turnover. It bends and don't breaks and forces you into a field goal. And as we found out here in Denver with Vic Fangio with a similar style defense, now he was running quarters match, but it was still a bend don't break. If you're playing a run game, wear out the clock, that kind of thing, and you need a turnover at the end of the game, you're unlikely to get it. If you need a big stop, a 3 and out, you're unlikely to get that. You'll still have a great defense, but you're unlikely to get that. So you want to make sure that your offense is putting points up and not playing from behind.
No, that's pretty funny you say that, because Eberflus last week in a press conference said we want to be fanatical about takeaways. Do you think that and his defense go together then? Probably not, right?
I mean, it does, but you want to be fanatical about takeaways. But I'm thinking, like, what I'm trying to get at is, like, in the fourth quarter, when you need a spot takeaway, that's just it, or a 3 and out, you can't rely on that. Getting takeaways throughout the game is always a good thing, and that defense will be good for that. But when you get cornered in a situation where you need that, it's a 1-possession game, and you need a 3 and out or something like that, those style of defenses, it's their one Achilles heel. You can run the ball on it, and you can wind clock down on it at the end of a game because they're just so difficult to get a 3 and out playing that way.
Are the Bears capable of success, and Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles too, with this roster right now?
Well, as it sits right now, no. But obviously, they're going to rebuild this thing. Like I said, they're sanding it down. They're getting rid of the ash and trash, and they're gonna sit there and try and build this thing back up in their vision. I certainly respect that right off the bat. It's gonna burn some bridges in the locker room initially as they deal guys off, and guys are gonna be unhappy. But I think if you're a good coach and you're a good GM, and you can convey your vision to some of those pieces and show them that, hey, long term, this is in our best interest. I think that'll go a long way.
How long do you think this takes?
Typically, your typical target is 3 years. 3 years, or at least enough promise in year 3 that you can get there in year 4. We've seen teams do it faster. I mean, you look at the Niners when they sanded it all the way down, they got there a year early, as it were. So typically 3 years is the mark, though. In the first year, you're just going to lose. In the second year, you want to either lose small or win small, and in the third year, you want to win small or win big.
And when do you think, I don't know, a playoff appearance could be on the horizon? Probably after 3 or 4 years?
I think year 3, you want to if you're not hitting the playoffs in year 3, there's a problem. You want to be above 500 and in playoff contention. If you don't hit the playoffs, that's a head scratcher.
What about Aaron Rodgers returning to the division? How does that affect what the Bears are going to be doing and what the NFC North will look like?
Well, I think if you're the Bears and you're doing your rip and strip, I mean, this is the window, right? Aaron Rodgers still runs the division, so why not do the get rid of everything and start building it up while he still owns the division? And in a year or two, when he's gone and retired, now all of a sudden you're in prime position to take back over with a stacked roster. So, you got some interesting competition because Detroit started theirs last year. Minnesota will be starting theirs either this year or next year. So it's going to be interesting to see who in that curve makes the right decisions and gets the right guys on their roster. But I think that's the deal. If you got a team that owns the division right now, why not sand it all the way down and try to be out in front of it, especially if that guy's going to be retired in a few years?
Benjamin, before we finish up today, last question. What's the best reaction you've heard about the Russell Wilson news on your radio show?
There was a father that called in. He called in to let us know his newborn had been born, and they were going to name his middle name Russell in honor of the Russell Wilson acquisition. So for me, that was pretty cool getting to be on the air and hear fans' excitement. But that level of excitement, that's a whole nother level. So.
Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for joining me. Always appreciate the time. Best wishes in this chaos for NFL free agency, and looking forward to our next chat.
Absolutely. Best wishes to the Chicago Bears. The NFL's better when the Bears are good.